Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 34th episode, or actually, hold on a second. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. I don't think I changed the number. Oh, no. Is this 34 or 35? It's 35. Oh, what a disaster. Hang on. One moment, please. I gotta change my tweet. I put 34 and it's 35. Oh, no. I've just ruined it, guys. I literally ruined it. The whole podcast is ruined now. Oh, it's been a long day. Oh, my gosh. One moment. Oh my gosh. So sorry. Sorry about that. Holy moly. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's been a weird day, guys. It's been a really weird day for me. I went to the store, uh, and I had to wait an hour at Walmart to get a pickup order. It's been brutal. So I apologize. It's starting off rough here. 35th episode. 35th episode. My apologies. All right. Welcome to the 35th episode of the Evil Geniuses Bleed Blue podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about pretty much everything Evil Geniuses. And yeah, gotta say, a little bit of a slow week this week. Kurrent's not going to be joining us for the Counter-Strike section. He's currently kind of having he's kind of visiting family, so not a big deal, of course, because there really isn't too much going on in Counter-Strike at the moment, which is usually what we talk about for quite some time. But we have other things to talk about. League of Legends, obviously, the LCS playoffs, very, very important. Summer playoffs for fighting for the top four, fighting for one of the spots to go to Worlds. That's currently going on. We just played against Cloud9 last week, and want to discuss that game a little, that series a little bit. Then moving on to Valorant, obviously tomorrow, as of the time of recording. So potentially, if you're listening to this on Monday, they will be playing that day on Monday. Tomorrow. They will be playing against Fun Plus Phoenix in their first game of VALORANT Champions 2023. So that's going on. That's a pretty big event. So we're going to talk about the group stage and the teams, and you know where I think EG falls in their group, in their particular group, and how well they should do for this event. So that's going to be the main crux of this episode. No Dota 2 news because Dota 2, we're kind of just waiting on TI. And then we're gonna jump into some Counter Strike as well. I'm still kind of debating about this. I might interject a small section about about why this is a dicey topic. So I'm thinking about this now because if I talk about this while Current's not on the podcast, maybe that's a little bit better. I don't want to talk about something like this with him there if he doesn't feel comfortable speaking on it. But basically, just that EG doesn't really care about the LGBTQ plus community at all. And that no esports organization really does, and it's just obvious from the past Riyadh events that have been going on and what orgs do to make it sound like they care, but they really don't. I might briefly touch on that if we have time, but uh, we may or may not get to that. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling about if I decide I want to talk about it. But yeah, I guess without further ado, guys, let's just start off with this doesn't look like Diablo 4. It's because it's not Diablo 4, John. It's a podcast about an esports team that's frankly, well, I was going to say disappointing. It depends on which esport you're discussing. League of Legends. This is one of the esports where I don't know, or maybe I should title this as LCS playoffs, um, and then do EG versus C9. This is one of the esports where you expect EG to be pretty good, at least in the past couple of years. Or 2 years, I should say. This year and the previous year, they've been a pretty decent team, but yeah, quite disappointing last week. Very disappointing last week. They played Cloud9 in the LCS playoffs after beating TSM. We talked about that. a week ago, and I said basically that I wasn't very convinced by their win over TSM. It looked like they weren't really fully there, and they were just not playing consistently. They weren't playing to the standard that I wanted to see them play at. And I thought they gave TSM way more opportunities than they should have had. And it made me worried going into this Cloud9 series. And my fears were correct, unfortunately. We played Cloud9, we got 3-0'd, which sounds dominant, but I assure you it wasn't. In fact, EG definitely should have won two of the games in this series. They should have won game one and they should have won game three, but they threw both of them in very almost similar fashion, honestly. Just not picking the right fights. I think I think our friend over at the LIVEEVIL Podcast, what did he had a tweet that I really thought summed up the series quite well. Um, Let's see if I can find it. Yes, here it is. The bad and the ugly with EG is still the same: forcing fights, not cutting their losses, and poor objective control. And I think that pretty much summed up the series with Cloud9 pretty well. It was a pretty simple series to understand exactly what happened. EG doing really well in game one. They played their comp quite well for the most part. And they had gotten the dragon, they had gotten the baron, and they were starting to push into the mid lane. And they kind of, I don't know if they overstayed their welcome towards the first. I don't know if it was the inhibitor or if it was just the first tower in their base. Not sure which it was, but basically MNES TP'd, went on the flank. They weren't aware of it. Don't know if they just didn't have wards up, and just weren't controlling, weren't doing a good enough job with ward placement, um, or if it was just maybe just overstaying their welcome and not trying to, you know, utilize their Baron better. But essentially, MNS went on the flank. They weren't ready for it. Gets massive value out of that. They lose the team fight after getting the dragon and the baron. They lose that team fight, and the whole game just immediately just 180s, and Cloud9 just wins from there. So they threw that game. They played it pretty well, and you can tell EG thought they should have won that game because on game two they play almost the exact same comp. Cloud9 plays a very strange comp. I had never seen it was like a Kha'Zix and like something else. And listen, I don't know much about League of Legends, but it didn't look normal to me. It looked pretty strange, and I liked listening to I Will Dominate and some in LS as well during these games because they provide a lot of insight. And even Dom was saying, like this is a strange comp, like this doesn't Cloud9's comp doesn't make any sense, EG probably has a better comp here. And I don't really know what happened in game two. It just felt like they were kind of getting destroyed everywhere. Don't know if it was a lack of awareness from players or just not individually playing up to the level that they should. It was a very strange game to watch, but they got blown out. Wasn't not a very convincing game by any means. Yeah, frustrating to watch. And then game three felt like the same thing as game one to some extent. Really good advantage, looked like they were doing a good job in the game, and next thing you know, they win a Baron, they overstay a fight, they chase too much, and they get punished for it, and the game's just over. They just lose off of it, and it's just like you can't, you can't. These are simple. These are simple mistakes. These are mistakes that can be fixed. But at this point, some of these issues have been. We saw inklings of them, during that loss streak, and I can't help but think that maybe this team just isn't going to be good enough to make it. I think that the big test will be this game against Team Liquid. I believe if I take a look here, at the standings, let's see here, because we need to be top four. We need to be top four in order to make Worlds. We're gonna play Team Liquid. Dignitas is going to play. Actually, does that even matter? I think it does. Oh, okay, yeah. TL is going to play, or Dignitas is going to play whoever loses the NRG Golden Guardian series, which is currently ongoing as of recording this. NRG is up 2-1 against Golden Guardians. NRG looking very, very good, actually, which has been probably the story of the playoffs has been NRG's good form. But um, but yeah, so if potentially Dignitas has to play Golden Guardians, and then we will have to play. If we beat Team Liquid, we'll have to play the winner of the Dignitas and then the Golden Guardians NRG game. Whoever loses that probably will make it past Dignitas, but we'll see. At that point, let's see here. Whatever teams. Basically, where do we need to be? Lower bracket round 3 in order to secure Worlds, maybe? How many teams will be left is what is the question. So, um, let's say for example's sake, NRG wins this series, they would go to play against Cloud9. Golden Guardians would go to play Dignitas. If we win against Team Liquid, we would play the winner of the Dignitas series. That would be 2 teams there, and then Cloud9. Okay, so we basically to secure Worlds, just in general, it would still be fourth would still be a play-in spot, but to secure going to Worlds, we have to beat Team Liquid. If you beat Team Liquid, we go to Worlds. If we lose to Team Liquid, we don't go to Worlds. But ideally, we'd want to beat Team Liquid and whatever team we play in the following round, because if we can do that, then we'll secure top 3. And if you secure top 3, you're guaranteed to go to the group stage. If you get fourth, you have to play in the play-in. So yeah, instead of just beating Cloud9 and just instantly making group stage of Worlds, now we have to win 2 series in order to secure group stage at Worlds. So makes it a little bit more difficult. But it was a frustrating series because it didn't feel like EG should have been 3-0'd. In fact, they probably should have won 2 of the 3 games, but they couldn't get out of their own damn way, and it ended up costing them quite massively. So a frustrating result for sure. I'm a little worried going into this Team Liquid series. I mean, look, JoJo usually gets the better of APA, but this Team Liquid team has been kind of inconsistent, but at times has been very strong, and so not a team that I would particularly enjoy playing against. But I don't know that I would particularly enjoy playing against whoever wins the Dignitas series as well, because if it ends up being Golden Guardians or NRG, I don't know that I'd want to be playing one of those 2 teams either. So yeah, man, it's tough now. It's really tough, and for EG's sake, I hope they're able to pull out a win here, because I do think it would be a really cool story for these guys to go to Worlds. I really want Revenge to go to Worlds. I really want JoJo to go to another Worlds. Those are the 2 big players on my mind that I really want to go to Worlds again, because I think Revenge has never had the opportunity, and JoJo Pyun is just such a young, and he's a superstar, and this would be just more fuel for him to get better and to improve and get better as a player. So like I really want to see them go to Worlds. I don't know if they're gonna. They're not gonna do anything at Worlds probably, but it would just be cool to see them go to Worlds. So, yeah, just disappointing. Just really, really disappointing to see them lose in the way that they did. Um, Brutal. Anyways, let's get on to a topic that's a little bit more upbeat, huh? How about that? VALORANT Champions. Champions is happening, ladies and gentlemen. Champions is here. It has been quite the fucking season for EG heading into Champions, obviously having the incredible run at Tokyo that they did, an incredible run in the VCT Americas playoff stage, destroying Cloud9, beating NRG, securing their place in Tokyo. We're only there because of a knife from one of MIBR's coaches, which is just incredible. Especially when you consider the long history of EGs in Valorant has been mostly negative, mostly terrible. They were like a tier 3 team at the start of Valorant, and so it's really cool to see Boostio get to where he's at. They have obviously a 10-man roster, which is look, it's not something that works in Counter-Strike. I would argue it probably doesn't work in Valorant either, but there are some benefits to it that I do want to kind of discuss, because I listened to an interview with Potter and Boostio, and Sideshow did a great job interviewing them, and he talked and questioned them on this 10-man roster and like how it works and what are some of the things that they're doing, because this is stuff that sorry, this is some stuff that like they don't really talk about very often, and I understand, right? Trade secrets, don't want to give away what you're doing, but when you try to tell everybody that you're doing things differently and that you're trying a unique approach and whatnot, people want to hear more about that approach. People want to hear how that's working and what are the intricacies of it and what is the plan exactly. Because if you boast about it and you say how great you are because you're doing something different, but then we don't know what you're actually doing with it, it just sounds kind of fake. And then our only way to essentially judge if it's working or not is to simply look at your results. And I don't think that the results are a clear picture of how good the idea is. Um, for example, when EG in CSGO beat Heroic in that best of three at the beginning of the year, everyone was trying to talk like the project was a success and that it was perfect and yeah, they're doing things differently, but look how great it's working. When clearly that had no impact on whether the project was a success or not, right? There were more things at play. You need to look at what the other teams were doing. How were the other players being implemented into the system, right? And so, um, yeah, I would say it was a pretty interesting interview that Sideshow did, and they discussed this 10-man roster. And basically, what Potter was saying was she was saying that um, what they're able to do with this 10-man roster is they're basically able to allow the reserve team to play the main team, which we did think, we did know that was a possibility and likely something they would do. But what was interesting is that they would have them do the same things over and over again. Like they would do like exercises where essentially it's like, hey, we're on Haven C site. Um, and maybe without telling the main team, Potter tells the reserve team, hey, I want you to do this strat on C, and I want you to keep doing it 20 times. Every single round 20 times in a row, and you don't tell the main team. And so now the main team has to make sure that they're reacting in the proper way to these site hits and do it over and over and over again, which obviously Potter then mentioned, yeah, the players can sometimes get annoyed and bored with it because, it's like, oh my gosh, they're hitting C again. Like, are you kidding me? Um, and you're just basically you're just getting Boostio described as getting abused essentially hypothetically in a video game, but you know what I mean, like just constantly abusing you at that site, like just hitting that bomb site over and over and over again with the same strategy, just to try to catch you off guard and see how you react and make sure that your reactions are really good, which I think shows in their gameplay because when you watch EG play, they're very quick on making certain decisions. They're very snappy. Fnatic does this very well as well. When something happens on the map, they're very quick to react, and it's almost like a hive mind where they just something happens and every single player knows what they need to do and what they should be thinking in that situation. And so that is what EG is trying to implement into their players. And this reserve roster allows them to do that because if you play NRG in a scrim, NRG isn't going to let you tell them, hey, can you do this strat over and over and over again and abuse? Like Potter can't tell NRG to do that, and then NRG does that for them. Like that's just not how that works, right? They're obviously going to want to try out their own things and try to improve on their game. So this is kind of a nice way of doing that. So I think that's actually valuable. That is very valuable, and that's something that's actually probably really valuable in Valorant because in Counter Strike, I don't know that it's as valuable. You can go to international events relatively frequently, and so you're playing these teams more often. You can go to a European boot camp, but when you're in North America, or you're in a region in general in Valorant, for the most part, you're playing within your own region's league. And so if you want to test something, like I wish a team would do this strategy on us, but like we'll never know until we play that team if we make it to an international event. With this system, you're able to do that because you have a reserve roster, right? And and so that's really really cool. I really like that. And obviously Potter's had it. She mentioned that there's a lot of resource management determining, okay, like what do we want to do for this roster? She's very particular on what moves to make and when is the right time to change a player and not constantly looking for that opportunity, but instead just keeping your eyes open and analyzing what's happening around you. And obviously it's tough because she had to mention to the players like, yeah, let's face it, if you're on the reserve roster, there's a very good chance you're never going to be on the main team, right? And so the players have to understand that, and it can be difficult to manage, I would imagine. So, yeah, I think it was really good insight overall. I really enjoyed the interview. And they also talked about obviously their performance coming into Champions. A lot of people are kind of, I don't know that they're doubting EG, but they don't think EG is going to do the same thing. People are kind of out of respect for their Tokyo run, putting them relatively high in the rankings, but you can tell it's still a question mark as to can EG really do this again? I believe they can. I believe they're good enough. I don't think that it was solely based off of individual play. I think for a decent chunk of Tokyo, for the group stage and probably the first round of playoffs against Loud, it probably was a little bit more individual focused in terms of just like, oh, okay, we're winning every pistol round, we're winning every bonus round. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes it really easy to play the game. But I do think that once they hit the Team Liquid series, that is when they weren't winning those pistol rounds all the time. They weren't winning all of those they weren't winning all those bonus rounds all the time. And so that was, I think, where we got to see the true strength of EG. And even with them not winning those rounds, they still beat Team Liquid. They still were the only team to take a map off of Fnatic. They played Paper Rex and beat them. Yes, they didn't have something. They had a stand-in, but their stand-in was exceptional and did a very good job. They then played Fnatic in the grand finals, and people just kind of brush that to the side and just say, EG got swept, whatever. But it was a close series. They played Fnatic very close on every single map. They had an opportunity to win every single map they played against Fnatic, and so people kind of wiped that off. But I don't think that's fair. I think they had a very good run in that final. I think they had a chance to win many of those maps, and so it is unfortunate they lost in the 3-0 fashion they did. But I don't think it was like a 3-0 sweep, super easy. Not Fnatic not breaking a sweat. And so I'm excited to see this team. I think this team is good enough to make a deep run, obviously, and I'm hopeful that it won't be a fluke. I can't lie. Looking at this group stage that they're in, right? It is a very look. I watched the group draw, and I couldn't have been happier with what group we got. We have a fucking easy bracket. I mean, this group stage is just free. I mean, it's just free. And I don't want. I say that, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But EG's group really is the easiest group to possibly be in. You got Fun plus Phoenix, one of the weaker Chinese. I mean, I say weaker Chinese team, one of the better-ish Chinese teams. But guys, EDG is by far and away the best team in China. FPX shows some okay things, but look, for the most part, EDG they're the boys. Okay, they just run through the Chinese bracket every time. So, look, Fun plus Phoenix, it's good for them to get some experience, but there's almost no way they win this series against EG. And then they'll have to play the winner of the Foot and T1 series. Foot, obviously, a team that EG has played in the past. They had a very close Lotus game, but EG was able to overcome and beat them. I think EG's gotten better since that series. As for Foot, we have no idea. You would like to hope they've gotten better, but it's very questionable at the moment. So I'm pretty hopeful that if they have to play Foot, I'm pretty confident they're going to win. T1 is a team that I think is the more likely team that EG is going to have to play against in the winners final, or the winners upper bracket match. Um, just because I think T1 has shown consistent improvement over time, and they have a very interesting roster. I don't know if you guys, I did mention T1's roster in the last podcast when we were discussing the Asian scene in FPS games, and they have a very exciting roster. Zeta is a very good player. Used to be a Counter Strike pro. Used to play on Cloud9, Valorant quite a while ago. Munchkin, a very very talented player, a very talented Raze player that we have seen multiple times at international events in the past. Actually, or I'm sorry, has he played? Wasn't it? I thought it was Raze. Maybe it wasn't Raze. My bad. My bad. My bad. But we have seen Munchkin play a lot. He's pretty good. Pretty good player. Saya player, obviously, used to play on the guard. A mega player, an absolutely mega player. One of the best players in Overwatch when he was playing in that game. Ban, he very great, a very good player as well. I believe he was in NA. I believe he was in NA a while back. Can't remember. Let's see here. Past teams, Luminosity. Yeah, he played in NA, I believe. Very good player, obviously. And Carpe, who is very similar to Saya player, an incredible Overwatch player, has come over into Valorant and looks like he's going to be pretty fucking good. He's going to be pretty insane. He's a really, really good player. Super exciting. I really like this T1 team. I'm a big fan of them. But I do think that if EG does play T1, we just have better players. Our cohesion is really good. I think we have a very strong map pool. I don't think any of these teams are really going to pose much of a challenge to EG. But it does make me a little anxious because it is a group where it's just like everything is expected to just EG breeze through the group. And so sometimes when you're just given like, oh, well, EG should just win this group easily, it's like when everyone's saying one thing and when everyone believes that the one thing should happen, you just can't help but have a seed of doubt in the back of your mind like, please don't tell me this goes wrong. I don't think it will. I think EG is a much better team than any of these other teams. But it's tough when you're in Valorant because you haven't seen Fun plus Phoenix play in a while, especially Foot and T1. Those are two teams that we have not seen since Tokyo, and it's very much like who really knows how good they are. I do remember Ethan mentioning in a YouTube video on the Valorant channel. I think Demon One was mentioning like, oh yeah, practice has been good, and then Ethan was like, oh, don't even lie, like basically saying like practice has been relatively shit for all the teams here because none of the tier 2 NA teams are doing anything because obviously the Ascension League is over for the year. The guard making it, of course, and none of those teams, none of the other tier 2 teams kept their rosters, and so because they're not, the organizations aren't going to pay for players that aren't going to basically be playing in any events. So obviously, you know there's no point in keeping their rosters. So basically, all the teams going to champions have had to scrim against other teams at champions. So, which isn't a bad thing, but you would like to have more scrim partners, especially scrim partners that aren't playing in champions, right? And so it sucks. This is just another thing showing another example of how Riot Games doesn't understand the tier 2 space whatsoever and is actually going to drive organizations to probably end up leaving the space, and maybe even players leaving the space, which as a Counter-Strike fan is nice for me, but obviously, you don't want to see a saturated tier 2 scene like this just get, you know, sucked dry essentially. But that's what's looking like is going to happen because of how poorly they've managed it. And now they're salty about it. So that people are angry at them for it. So it's outrageous. It's dumb. But yeah. So practice hasn't been that great. But like I said, EG should run this little group stage here, Group B. They should run Group B pretty easily and make it into the playoffs, which should give them a easier seed in the first round of playoffs, which was something they didn't really have last time because they were the second seed. Or actually, were they the second seed in Tokyo? They might have been the first seed. What happened in Tokyo? What happened in Tokyo? I did not spell Tokyo correctly. Let's see. Group stage at Tokyo. That's the playoffs. Where's the group stage? Group stage. We were the first seed from. Oh, that's right. We were the first seed from Group B. Was Loud a? Why did we play Loud? Why did we play Loud in? I guess it was because some teams, right? Because some teams already qualified for the playoffs through their by winning their respective regions leagues, and we just got unlucky enough that we got paired against Loud. Meanwhile, yeah, whatever. Very strange, but that won't happen this time because none of these teams have guaranteed spots in playoffs. So we should, if we ease through this group stage and we get the first seed in our group, we should have an easier matchup in our first round. Um, Probably playing against a team who placed second to qualify, who qualified through the lower bracket. So I mean, look, it could still be a very, very good team. Obviously, it could be like, for example, like Fnatic's Group C with Fnatic, Zeta Division, NRG, Billy. Who's to say NRG gets second? Gets second in Group C, and then we end up having to play NRG, right? It could still be a very tough team, but it should, in theory, be an easier matchup in the first round of the playoffs, assuming we do what we should and qualify through the upper bracket in Group B. But overall, super excited for this event. Really hoping to see EG continue their form and show that it wasn't a fluke, prove to people that this team is fucking legit, and that we are going to be at the top of Valorant for a while. We are going to be competing for a while. That's my hope. That is my hope. And looking forward to seeing the game tomorrow. Very exciting. Super, super thrilled to see it go down. So yeah. All right. I think that's Valorant for you. Moving on to some CSGO. not really too much here, honestly. CSGO, pretty light. Not a whole lot happening here. To be completely honest with you. You know, they've just completed their boot camp after their CCT event, so they are no longer in Europe or Asia, wherever they were based out of. They are back, coming back to the States, and yeah, it's been pretty good boot camp, I would say. Did pretty well at CCT. Did lose to Spirit in rather crushing fashion. I wish it was a closer series, but look, it happens, right? Spirit's a really good team. It happens. But the only news that we really have from EG is that they are actually going to be they're going to be in the team list for season 46 of ECL, which is strange to me because they're also an ESL Pro League. But that's what the report said a day ago from dust2.us. Report was written by iMarbot, and they are listed on the team list for ECL this season. So the other teams that are going to be competing in ECL, looks like, are M80, obviously, with Swisher and Malbs. Wildcard, the roster that beat M80 in the final for the Thunder pick of qualifier, I believe, and is a very very strong team. They've looked very very good recently. That's the team with Slight, for example. Nouns, who just finished their stint over in Europe, or they have a little bit of their boot camp left, but they're about to be coming back. Party Astronauts, coming back to Counter Strike. Fluffy Aimers. I don't really know much about Fluffy Aimers, to be completely honest. Mythic, obviously. Without Warning. Rocket. I think Without Warning is the team with Woohoo. I might be wrong. Timberman, obviously, the team with Dare. XB Hop, Looking for Org. Bad News Bears is back to Counter Strike, along with Steel. Steel is going to be, I believe, the in-game leader for that team, along with like Umar and Jonji. And then the Jungle, don't know anything about them. Reason Gaming, a salaried team. That's good to see. Omit as well. The only team that's not on this list that I really wish was on this list was Forsaken. But unfortunately, I think Forsaken has to play in ESEA Advanced, which is unfortunate because this Forsaken team is really fucking good and should not be playing in Advanced. They're going to fucking run it in Advanced. And I know this because they beat M80 in a best of 3. So that's the team with Wiz. For those of you who don't know, Wiz is on Forsaken, and really good team, really good team, and it's also got JBA on that team. It's just going to be a super cool team to watch. I'm really looking forward to seeing them, but unfortunately, we have to wait until we see them in ECL. So that kind of sucks, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So they the debut for ECL is August 15th, which is why I'm a little confused because again, ECL is going to be going on while Pro League is probably going on. So don't really understand how EG is going to be able to play. They probably just won't play all the ECL games, but they'll be in ECL maybe. I don't know. Not sure if that's even correct. I have no idea what's happening with this. They may not even be playing in ECL. Who knows? But it looks like they might be. And yeah, so it starts on August 15th. With a brand new league retaining, I'm quoting now, with a brand new league retaining regular season format. I don't know what that means. Let's look at this for a second. um, let's see here. To merge the last 2 seasons of the year into a single season for ECL. New schedule. North America. The season will begin on August 15th with a break during ESL Pro League 18. Well, that answers my question. So there's going to be a break during Pro League. So maybe EG can play the first couple of games of ECL, go to Pro League, and come back and play the rest of ECL. So that's possible, maybe. Playoffs are scheduled to take place from November 20th to December 3rd. Please note that match days and times will remain unchanged from previous seasons. New formats. We have implemented new formats for different regions. North America and Asia will follow a single group round robin format, leading to playoffs. A single group round robin format, leading into playoffs. I think. Okay, all matches are best of 3, with the grand finals best of 5. Huh. Do they have a graphic? Upper. First to single group, single round robin. Okay, top 10 teams to playoffs. So so that's different than before. Before it was two different groups, and they would play like I think 2 round robins, um, and then it was like the top 4 teams or so. I think top four, top 5 teams make it to playoffs. But now it's only a single group with all the teams, and they each play each other once. And I assume they're playing best of threes. I don't know if I like that better. Maybe I do. At least that way you're not. At least that way you get to play every team compared to before where you were only playing the teams in your group and maybe one group is more stacked than the other. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be curious to see what the teams think of that format. Um, but okay. And then they end up going to. Oh, wait a minute. This is very interesting. The playoffs looks like they have a very unique format. Playoffs looks like a very different format. Huh. Because it says here in playoffs, so the top 2 seeds in this, obviously in this group stage, the top 2 teams will go to straight to round 2, and then third through sixth, so third, fourth, fifth, and sixth go to round 1 of the playoffs, the upper bracket round 1, and then seventh through 10 go to the lower bracket round 1. So some of these, so if you're 6th through 10th, you're going to start, or I'm sorry, if you're 7th through 10th, you're going to start in the lower bracket. This sounds like Dota in a way. You're going to start in the lower bracket, and then if you're 3rd through 6th, you're going to start in the upper bracket round 1, and if you're 1st or 2nd, you're going to go straight to the 2nd round upper bracket. So round 2. If you take 11th place, you stay in ECL, but you don't go to playoffs. And then if you're 12th, 13th, 14th, you go to the relegation bracket where you have to play in relegation. And then if you're 15th or 16th, you just get immediately relegated. So that's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. 16, is it 16 places? Yeah, so even if you get relegated, you still get some money. You get like $300, which is like nothing, but that's interesting. That's very interesting. So okay, they've changed the format, which is kind of cool actually. I think this format is good, but maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe the players would know better. I don't know how that affects match time. They said the match times aren't going to change, so I don't know. Very interesting. But yeah. But that's the news, is that EG is going to be competing in ECL. And now that I've read this article, thank you guys for sticking with me for the research. Looks like they might be able to play in ECL and then Pro League and then go back to ECL, which again is still weird in the sense that like technically ECL is supposed to be used to whoever wins ECL gets to like go to Pro League. So don't really understand that. But if it means EG is going to play in more events and play more teams more consistently, which is I think what they need. I don't think they played enough games in previous roster iterations. I think this is a good thing. Plus, it allows these other teams, these without warnings and the Timbermen, Bad News Bears. It allows those teams to play wild card. It allows those teams to play against a North American team that has played in Europe consistently. You know what I mean? And that's really what we need, is we need better quality teams. We also need players to start playing fucking FPL more. But that's besides the point. I've already talked about in the last episode what NA needs in order to recover as a region. So I might actually end up taking that clip. I might take that part of the video, part of the pod last week, and then like editing it down so it's a little bit more concise, and then posting that on my Twitter. I might do that. But yeah, this is good news. This is good news overall. But yeah, don't know also if they're going to compete in IEM Sydney, but there is an open qualifier, a North American Open qualifier for that. Because yeah, there's no information on what teams are competing, but that does start on August 9th. So who knows? Maybe EG is going to play in that. That'll start technically on Wednesday. So we'll keep our eyes out for that. They might end up playing in that, which would be pretty interesting. I hope they do, but we'll see. And yeah, because EG's coming back to NA, so maybe they're going to compete in the Open Qualifier. That'd be good to see. So yeah, but other than that, guys, I think that's pretty much it. I was going to talk about that thing, but I just I don't know. I don't think it's. I feel like it's been talked about enough. Um, I've mentioned it actually multiple times before in previous, and like, this was months and months and months ago, but I did talk about it in the past, and my viewpoint really hasn't changed. It's the same. It's that these organizations don't actually care about any of the values that you think they do, and I've always thought the irony is they claim they care about like the LGBTQ plus community and whatever, but then they'll like, and how they'll support it is they'll either sign a player who's from that community, aka Sonic Fox in EG's case, or what they'll do or what they'll do is they'll create merch, which always to me is like the funniest thing ever. Like creating merch to then claim that you support that community, but then so they'll create merch to claim they support the community, but then obviously the people who are in that community will then purchase that merch. But that's not you supporting that community. That's you cash grabbing off of that community by creating merch that's specifically tailored to them. So it doesn't really compute for me. It's like you guys do realize that when you're in this, if you're a part of the LGBTQ plus community and they create merch designed for your demographic and you buy it, that's not them supporting your community. That's them leeching off of you because they know that you're going to buy it because it's supposedly them claiming that they support your community. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Um, and if you want even any more evidence that EG's merch does not represent what they actually care about, just go look at the merch for Valorant. That's still on their store to this day. I'm pretty sure. I checked like a couple of days ago, and I did still see it there. They even have a tab dedicated to EG Valorant, which sounds interesting until you go to the page and you just see that there's a poster that looks it's a T-shirt actually that looks like. I mean, I'll just show it on stream, I guess. The I mean, this T-shirt you can't even see the shirt really because it's just a white shirt and a white background. So whoever did this is a fucking dumbass. But you can see here, right? Like you've got like EG. I think this is the front. I don't even fucking know. You can't tell because the shirt is just it's just white on white. But like I guess this is okay, right? It's a champion shirt. Like that's all right, you know. But then like look at this EG Valorant 10th fan T-shirt. It's just a gray shirt that says 10th fan in the most bland text you could possibly have. Like, bro, they put no effort into these T-shirts. Like literally no effort into these T-shirts. It's a fucking joke. Like this is an absolute fucking joke of merch. Like what the fuck is this? You couldn't have even tried like Potter Supremacy. You couldn't have done like a cool picture of Potter or something, like an artwork thing, like a collage looking type thing on the front, where like something cool, with Potter, like her like having a like just opening a book, like a textbook or something, just like reading them like a book, you know what I mean? Like you could have done anything creative with this. You just had like text on a fucking t-shirt that I could have made this myself. I literally could have made this myself and probably costed me less than $35. Like this is a joke. And I'm being generous by showing the blue t-shirt versions because the gray ones are just a fucking joke. Like it makes you just want to cry looking at them. The don't care shirt was I thought hilarious. I did post that on my Twitter because it's fucking hilarious when you look at this out of context. The EG Valorant don't care t-shirt. It's literally just a t-shirt that says don't care, which is exactly what how much EG cares about their fucking merch. Like the irony in this is unreal. Like what a fucking terrible job. The bald buff hat. First off, I don't think anybody wears these types of hats anymore. Number two, why the fuck is it just text that says bald buff? There's not even an EG logo. It's just a fucking hat. Is there no logo on this shirt, on this hat? It doesn't look like it. It's just a fucking hat that says bald buff. How the fuck is anybody gonna know that this is anything close to related to EG? It's just a fucking hat that says bald buff. Like, this is shit. And they're trying to charge you $35 for it. Like, what the fuck? This is a joke. So, yeah, EG needs to immediately take all of these fucking shirts off of their website because they're a fucking disgrace. If I was Potter, I'd literally be telling them, like, get that shit off the page. Like, what? I don't even want people to spend their money on this. This is a fucking joke. Um, it was just a cash grab because they did well at Tokyo and they wanted to get money. I would imagine. That's my guess. But it's disrespectful to to Potter. It's disrespectful to the Valorant team to have a merch like this that's just so poorly created. When, granted, look, their League of Legends team, yeah, they don't have like the most amazing merch in the world, but it's fucking better than that. Like, what the fuck is this, dude? This is a joke. This is a slap in the face. So they need to get this shit off their website right now and create some better merch because this is unacceptable. See, look. Oh, look. Thanks to your purchase, EG will make a donation to the Trevor Project in support of LGBTQ youth. That's fucking great. How much money do you think they're actually donating to this? Just a reminder, guys. They literally are partnered with ESL Faceit Group, which is owned by Saudi Arabia. EG literally competed and tried to qualify for the Riyadh event. That was a Gamers 8 event, which specifically goes against every single principle of the LGBTQ plus community. Like, they also are associated with Riot Games, who is owned by a company in Tencent that is based in China. Like, how much more evidence do you need that this organization doesn't give a flying fuck? It doesn't matter how much they donate. I guarantee you they're receiving more money from people like ESL Faceit and Riot and are getting more money from that shit than they are donating to these fucking organizations that aren't even mentioned. It just says donation, well, I guess to the Trevor Project, but it's like, that's, you don't know how much money, and clearly they don't care enough to leave ESL Faceit, the ESL Faceit partnership. They don't care enough to not be partnered with Blast. They don't care enough to disassociate with Riot Games, right? Like, if you actually cared about those things, that's what you would do. You would disassociate from those things, right? Now, obviously, they wouldn't do that because then they wouldn't be competing in the space, right? Which, by the way, isn't necessarily true for Counter-Strike, because you cannot be directly a partner of the ESL Faceit Group and not be partnered with Blast and still technically make those events. It's definitely a lot harder to do, but it's definitely possible. And so, yeah, if they really cared, they would have to do that, right? As for Valorant, they technically wouldn't have to be a partner, right? They could go through the Ascension system, which is not, you know, is not the it's obviously not very easy to do, but if you really cared about the LGBTQ plus community, if that really was a top priority for you, you would do that, right? That's what you would like to think, but they don't. They don't actually care. That's why, to me, when you create merch like this, it's just kind of crazy to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't prove that they actually care. If anything, it's just a smokescreen to make it sound like they care, but they really don't. So that's all I wanted to say on that. Again, my viewpoint on that hasn't really changed since months and months and months ago when I talked about it on the podcast. But yeah, don't be faked into this shit, into believing that they actually give a fuck when all they are actually doing is just making a profit off of your beliefs. Don't do that. Don't let them win like that. That's just fucked. But okay. Other than that, that's pretty much all I had to say, I think, for this week. There's really not a whole lot going on. I mean, well, not this last week at least. But obviously, VALORANT Champions is starting up, and LCS playoffs is going on, so there's big news in that regard. But in terms of in terms of you know Counter Strike, there's really nothing happening. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say in this episode. Kurrent might be back for the next episode, and we'll see if EG ends up playing in some of these IM Sydney events or whatever. This online qualifier, and obviously if they start playing in ECL in, let's see, the 15th is coming up next week. Not this week, but next week. So they'll be playing games soon. So it'll be fun to watch them compete. And looking forward to that. Also looking forward to the summer playoffs, even though LCS playoffs have been not the most fun thing to watch at the moment, but hopefully they can step up and beat Team Liquid on Thursday. And then Valorant. Yeah, Valorant group stage is starting. So pretty exciting stuff there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was pretty quick, pretty brief, but um, probably a little nice change of pace compared to the usual like hour and a half episodes. And yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about next week. So until then.